American companies own the foldable market, but they're losing it. It has nothing to do with specs. Today, they're not designing better phones. They're designing better profit margins. I mean, they've had such a tight hold on the market that they actually were able to kick out one of the new innovative devices that came out. But of course, Microsoft was not into marketing like these other companies. And for them, an Android phone was just an afterthought. What a shame, huh? Well, let's talk about what are these companies doing today that's telling us, the customer, that we need to step up and make ourselves heard. Let's go. And we know Samsung started the industry of foldables, really. And then shortly after that came Google trying to show them how to make a foldable, with this wide design. And it's taken, what, 7 years now before they actually are following that lead with the wider design. I mean, that's a huge difference. And as a matter of fact, they actually showed Apple how to make a bar across the top. I mean, look at that, wouldn't you know? But of course, Samsung's still going to do their own thing. So as I said in the opener, they're no longer chasing actually innovation and their own design. They're just chasing profit margins. And how do we know this? Well, for years, you buy a new phone or you buy an upgrade phone and it looks just like the previous model, right? But you're not able to use your case. I mean, you look at this. This time it has a bar surrounding it. Previous years it just had the cameras jumped up, and then they had the bar before, but it was thinner. The phone was thinner. Now it's fatter. I mean, they change them just enough that what you have to buy into their marketing strategy and get a new case, new accessories for the device because the old ones don't work. Now, of course, they're not the only ones that do it. Apple's been doing that for years with their iPhone. I mean, case in point, you got the redesign. But, of course, we've all been wanting a redesign for the longest time. And this, I actually think, is a good one. But before this, all those squares, they just changed in size slightly. They changed the size of the phones just slightly. Like they've gone from what, 6.1 to 6.2 to 6.3. Why? It's not for better hardware, but to force us to buy more accessories. I mean, we can prove it with the cameras. I mean, they've been the same for years. Even Apple, they haven't changed them much. Where have they changed? Well, they've been following, where is it? They've been following Pixel's strategy for the last 4 years, which is make a phone with cheaper hardware, but really focus on AI and the software to improve it. And they did that. We know that the Pixel for the longest time had the best photography, because of their algorithm, their software. And they decided that they would open source, of course, their camera equipment after a few years. And so everybody else started doing it. So it was not a good thing that they did it, that is, release their technology so people can improve their photos through software. It might have seemed like that at the time, but now these other companies like Samsung and even Apple are riding that coattail where they're not improving the hardware, figuring that they can do it all with software. And that has actually had us fooled for, I guess, what, 3 or 4 years? At least it seems like it, because people are still buying into these. I think it was a 24 Ultra was the last one with the stylus that had Bluetooth built in, so you can do more with it, like take pictures and such. This is the S25 and the S26 series Ultras no longer have that. They took that away. Why? So they could save money. Did the battery increase? No. Did the cameras really improve? No. They put a marketing gimmick in these phones, and that's me. And you can watch the videos on it if you don't believe me, with that 200 megapixel lens. That's really just kind of a make you and I think that they improved the cameras. But those cameras are not any better than today's 50 megapixel lens. Matter of fact, they make things worse, because when you think you're zooming, they crop in on those 200s, and a cropped in 200 megapixel image that has been down to 12 is a whole lot worse than a 50 megapixel zoom lens. So it's things like this, clever marketing to try to keep us interested in the devices instead of innovation and improving the devices themselves. So as I stated, instead of better design, better marketing. Now, I stated in the beginning that they are losing in the market. Well, it may not look like it because, well, Samsung went with their first, they finally listened to customers and went with the wider phone instead of that narrow thing. It's been narrow since the beginning. And when they went wide, guess what? They had record sales. Sales went up 50% from the previous year. That's incredible. That's because they finally listened to what customers were saying. They wanted a wider phone. I mean, in the beginning, Pixel tried to tell us that, but then Pixel made the mistake thinking, okay, we need to chase the coattails of Samsung, but we're going to do something that they're not doing, and they widened the phone. Okay, so they were smart to do that, so people were liking this. But the problem is it's heavy. They did not put flagship cameras, and to this day, they still don't have flagship cameras in the Fold. Neither one of them do. And why? So they can try to pitch us or sell us on their Ultra phones or their Pro phones. And of course, through the years, they claim, well, we can't because the foldables are too thin. We can't put bigger batteries in them because they're too thin. We can't upgrade the technology because of their specific design. Well, we know that all that's been debunked. I mean, Samsung did it to themselves, putting that 200 megapixel in here. But as I stated, that's not really an upgrade. What really debunked them is now we have a US available phone in the Motorola Razr Fold. This phone has everything we've been asking for that these others don't. I mean, number one for me is it doesn't rock on the table when you put it down. I mean, that's a great thing. That's just a simple design thing that they could do if they would listen to the customer. This thing has a 6,000 milliamp hour battery versus a 4,400. So Samsung's doing another one of their marketing tricks, and they're going to upgrade it to 5,000, a 600 upgrade on their battery. But they can't do any more because they got to keep the phone thin. Debunked again right here, 6,000 milliamp hour battery. Now they're finally upgrading the ultra wide on this to a 50 megapixel instead of a 12. Well, we've had 50 megapixel ultra wides in these cameras for a long time. The China market has been doing it. You have the Motor or the Honor Magic, Oppo, Vivo. They've all been doing it for years. It's not something new. And then Samsung tried to chase that design of being the thinnest phone out there. And you got to give it to them. They are really thin, but of course, they have one of the largest bumps here. But you know what? Who did it without having a compromise? Well, we got the Honor Magic. Honor had the thin phone. It's right there with Samsung. And as far as the thinness, and flip that around, and you can see that they're pretty much just as thin as one another. And they still have a 64 megapixel zoom lens versus a 10, 50 megapixel ultra wide versus a 12, 6,000 milliamp hour battery versus a 4,400. I mean, how much more do I have to prove the point? That it's all marketing. And where Oppo not only got all the thinness, got all the hardware in there. I mean, they got a 200 megapixel camera in there for their main. So showing Samsung, we can do that too. But we can also put a 50 megapixel zoom lens and a 50 megapixel ultra wide. And they went even one step further by being the first ever to have that pretty much creaseless screen here. I mean, it looks great on video, but it even looks great in person. I mean, it's not that visible, as you can see right there. You could barely see any kind of crease. Very unlike something like Samsung, where that crease is extremely visible. And I don't know if you can see it on or not on film. The Samsung phone will not sit flat. It's kind of curved. Now, you may have one that does, but this is curved more than something like the Oppo Find N6. It is flat, and so is the screen. Now, with that in mind, this is another marketing ploy that Apple is going to jump on this year. Apple is coming out with their first foldable, and I think they're trying to beat the US market to having the first foldable with the creaseless lens or screen, that is. And, Samsung's may be close to it. We don't know. They've showed screens in their different shows, but we're learning that that may not have been their screen. That may have been Apple's screen. So we'll find out. But Apple's going to make that grandiose, uh, claim of having that creaseless or the first creaseless foldable in the market. So that's going to be their big marketing ploy. But guess what? They're going to knock down those cameras. Their phone is going to be called an Ultra, but their Ultras have 3 cameras. Their standards have 2, and it's going to come out with 2 cameras, an ultra wide and a main. Now, rumor is they may both be 50 megapixels, so at least they capture that portion of it. But I can tell you right now that that and the Samsung wide foldable, they're both going to be coming out behind in the market with old technology. Why? So they could save money and market it. I mean, those 2 companies are very, very clever. They are going to put out these phones and they're going to market them as the best things ever and are meeting all your needs, yet they're going to be short-sighted or short of hardware and specs to really meet that claim fully. This year with Pixel is apparently they're going to reduce the RAM not only in their Fold, but they're also going to reduce them in their flagship phones. I mean, they are 16, and yeah, they're going to blame it on a RAM shortage, so they're going to drop them down to 12. But guess what? Is the price dropping? No, the price is going up. So Samsung's doing the same thing. They're reducing hardware, but increasing the price. Now, Samsung's been doing it for years, and a lot of people missed it. I mean, in the Fold 2, it had a 45 milliamp hour battery, and then the following year, the Fold 3 went to a 44. And of course, they said better processor, longer battery life. Maybe so, but they've been stuck on that 4400 the rest of the time. So you may have noticed last couple of years that the content creators have been showing off a lot of foldables, or a lot of foreign phones. Not only the foldables, but bar phones such as the Vivos, the Oppos, OnePlus is the one that kind of introduced it to the US. And why are we doing that? Why are we showing off these phones or covering these quite a bit, especially in America where they say we can't get those phones? Well, we're trying to pressure these American companies or availability in America to do better. We want you, the consumer, and the rest of us to know that yes, they can make these phones better and they can provide better hardware at a reasonable price. Because guess what? All these phones, minus having to import them, will beat the price on any of these American or homegrown phones out there. So these guys are just capitalizing on the monopoly they have in the United States and other countries that don't have access to these Chinese manufacturers. So the only way to break this trend is to let them know out loud that we've had enough. We expect you to do better. And there's a lot of you out there, and kudos to you, that have abandoned ship. And I'm just so thankful that we have a company like Motorola has stepped up with their foldable, showing all of us in the US that yes, they can make a better phone and they can make it reasonably priced. This thing came out this year, just recently, for $18.99 with a bunch of subsidies, a bunch of trade-in options, a bunch of great deals. So you can get this at a lower price, and you can get it with carriers now. All that alongside of Samsung is going to release their new Z Fold 8 Ultra, basically 7 Plus, and that Plus is $200. I mean, thing's going to come out to nearly $2,100. Why? It's so they can say that their wide foldable is a bargain at $18.99, so they're going to sell it at the same price. But I challenge you to think that a wide foldable with only 2 cameras, less hardware, 256 or maybe even 128 gigabytes of storage, and that's another thing. This came up with 512 at that price. If you want 512 in the new Z Fold 8, tack another $200 on it, because that Ultra is going to start out at 256 for $2,100. Now, granted, Samsung may do an early or pre-order special where they'll bump it up to the 512, thinking that they're doing you a great deal, a great service, but actually where they're actually matching the rest of the market. So pay attention this year to Samsung's announcements and what they're going to do, and know that they are marketing us what they think will actually improve their bottom line. And unfortunately, Pixel is starting to play that game, and Apple's been doing it forever. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think? Am I just full of it? Are these companies really taking advantage of us, especially this year? And is there something we can do to get the word out and the message to them that we're not standing for it. Now, as a content creator, I'm going to continue to get these phones and I'm going to continue to report on them. So you don't have to worry about that. You're still going to get the same content, and I'm going to get you the real review on each of these devices. Now, if you want to hear more about the Samsung and what's coming out, check out this video here. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do so because it really does help out the channel. It helps me bring out more content. Until next time, have a wonderful day and God bless.